Hello, everybody out there, Ravori fans, Oriole fans. Thank you very much for joining us here for the Ravori Sports Podcast Conversation. Like and subscribe to all of our social media content here. So over 100 of you on YouTube, and I just want to be thankful and I'm grateful for all the interest out there in our content. We appreciate you. Definitely check us out if you're watching us live on Driving to the Top Productions. We appreciate everything you guys are out there doing as well. Genesis Notary Services. If you know, in Winchester, Virginia. I just literally walked in the door from a notary appointment. So I want to thank all of you today. We had a busy day today with that. So I appreciate all of you out there doing that. RavoriSports.company.site is the website as well. So definitely too, that's a flagship. You can get Ravens hats like this, the one I'm wearing, jerseys especially as well. And see, Charles Harris, we are Legal Shield. So definitely too, legal assistance is needed. So definitely check that out if you have anything like that. You could save money here as well. And it took us a while here, but we got one of the OGs here of the Baltimore media space as well. Orioles Hangout as well. I was just talking to him off camera about how I was checking out Brian Roberts, how we were all checking out Orioles Hangout at work. Right, when we were worried about Brian Roberts getting traded to Chicago, which wound up not happening as well. This is his site is the place to go for Orioles discussion as well. Tony, how are you, boss?
Hey, doing great, Charles. Happy to be here and look forward to talking little O's today with you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you taking the time here as well this evening. So, the Orioles, right? So, picking it up a little bit here, we're recording this right now as the Orioles are playing Seattle 3-1. By the way, I'm sure you know that, but Seattle's up.
It's already down. Already just hit a 3-run homer against us.
Yeah, and that's been what's the story of the season here. Outside of the power numbers that we have been putting at the Orioles, it's been up and down. Yes. Like this, the pitching has not been what we wanted. The power has been good. Good relief pitching in April, not so much. Starters kind of turning around, and this is kind of where we are under 500. What's your biggest assessment so far from what you've seen, Tony?
Well, I mean, definitely it's been underachievement, right? We didn't expect them to be sitting 31, 36 this late into June. It's a disappointment. I think we all thought that this team, when you looked at it on paper, had a chance to compete. Wasn't sure how good they were going to be. I knew I had concerns about the bullpen. I had some concerns about the starting rotation going into this, just because they had a lot of guys that hadn't pitched a lot of innings over the last few years. So they were going to need a lot of starters. You just knew that, right? Bradish isn't going to throw 180 innings this year. Rogers has barely ever thrown over, I think 120 something is the most he's ever thrown. And even coming off the great year he had last year. But we just kind of knew, right? They were going to need a lot of different starters to kind of step up and do that. Obviously Elias went out and got himself Shane Baz in that trade. And honestly, it's funny, we stand at this point, and Baz is one of the best starters on this team when you look at what he's been doing of late. Obviously a slow start to his season, but he's really kind of been putting it on and kind of been the guy that I think Elias and we all hoped that he would be with the Orioles. But you look at these other guys, obviously Kyle Bradish has had a couple of tough outings. Overall, he's pitched okay, but, not maybe what we would hope, because we kind of look at him as a guy that could have been a potential ace. And he really hasn't been that guy. He's been a little bit up and down. Rogers was coming off a year where he was pitching like an ace, and we kind of knew he was going to come back to kind of the middle ground a little bit, but we didn't think he was be pitching to a 6-something ERA, here in June. And now he's just given up again. We were talking about today, just gave up a 3-run homer in the 4th inning. So again, that ERA is going up just right now. So it's been a tough year. When you look at the pitching, it's tough. They've had some injuries, of course. Kramer going down, losing Helsley doesn't help anything. But at the end of the day, I think the pitching has definitely been the big reason for the Orioles record, which is obviously not very good at 31-36. And then you add in guys that just haven't taken that step forward. When's Gunnar Henderson going to become an all-star again? Because he's been very ordinary now for over a year.
I actually like Gunnar this year more than I ever did at any point last year. He's at least in 2026 driving the ball. Like his average is kind of reflecting it though, because he's not hitting as much average. But at least this year, I see Gunnar driving the baseball at least a little more than it was as well. But yeah, disappointing in some areas. Taylor Ward, I was just writing about not getting what we thought. We're getting good stuff, pesky to keep off the bases. What's the guy that the upside? So who are we missing as far as upside, you think, Tony, on this team?
You mean on the current roster, who still can put a lot more together? Yeah. I mean, obviously, let's just go. Let's touch back on Gunnar. Yes, there's some things that he does well, but if you go to his baseball, savant page, there's a lot of blue in there. There's a lot of blue, and that's usually where they're about 50% or less percentile compared to the rest of baseball, and that's not where you want your star players to be at. So there's upside there, right? I think we both would agree he's a better hitter than what we've seen this year. He's a better hitter than a 7.1 OPS. His exit velocities is 89.2, which is slightly below major league average. That's not what we expect from Gunnar Henderson, and Gunnar's 24 years old, so you expect that's an area where he could turn it on at any point, and we could get a guy back that has shown to be special a couple of years ago. So that's kind of the first guy that stands out to me, is who can really turn it on and really get this offense going and start to carry the team. Because outside of that, you start looking around, and obviously even with Pete Alonso, he's not up to his normal career norm, so he's hitting below that. We've seen, Taylor Ward has hit 3 home runs this year after hitting 36 last year. He's getting on base a ton, and that's great. But we would expect a little bit of pop there, so maybe we see a little bit more. So we're
getting Wade Boggs, basically.
Yeah,
you're getting like guy pesky off the bases, a lot of walks. That's what I kind of think when I see him.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of we saw one year Wade Boggs decided he was going to hit home runs. And he just went to do it to show that he could hit 20-plus home runs. And his average dropped a little bit, but he hit the 20-some home runs. I think Tony Gwynn did it 1 year, too, where he popped a couple of homers and then it went down a little bit. Yeah. Then eventually they went back to being who they were. Ward is the opposite. He's a guy that's hit a lot of home runs, and now all of a sudden he decided that, I'm just going to get on base. And the organization needed that. I know a lot of people have been disappointed, but when you look at him right now, he's the top WAR player on the entire team at 1.8, and we're not even halfway through the season. So anything at 2.0 or higher, 2.0 is about average for an average starting player. So he's performing well. So I'm not upset with what Taylor Ward's been doing offensively. Defensively, he's a bit of a struggle.
Oh God, I think you're being kind. I mean, he looks like some nights he's never played. He looked like some nights he's never played left field, man. Yeah. I mean, for a guy who's been in left field for years, it's not just they didn't just put him there this year. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the worst part is sometimes it looks like it's effort, and that's the one that bothers me. You can make physical mistakes. Everybody's going to make physical errors when they're playing the game, but when you're seeing some mental errors, you're seeing after the ball gets by him, he's just kind of jogging after it. A guy gets an extra base, kind of lobs the ball in, and a guy gets just little things that you don't expect from a guy who's been playing in the major league as long as Taylor Ward has. So he's not excited me at all defensively. He's definitely a guy that if we didn't have Samuel Basallo, he probably would be the guy I'd want to DH. But, right now the outfield as a whole is not very good defensively, minus Colton Cowser, wherever you put him, especially in the corners. Cowser's pretty good. He's about average, so a little bit below average in center field for me.
Good segue here, mentioning Basallo. I actually was not a believer in this arrangement with Adley and Bereshman. They kind of sold us, well, yeah, Adley's going to you know how that goes. And I figured maybe one or the other. This has been the bright spot of the offense, I think, outside of, maybe the bright spot period. I can't think of anyone else, actually, more I think about it. Like these two guys, it has worked. Yes. I mean, they've been Adderley has been as good as we've seen him the last couple of years, and Basayo certainly not charging out the gate at the beginning, but certainly in rookie of the year consideration right now. Right now. So this has been the best catching duo in all of baseball. I mean, bit of a surprise to me. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I had no doubt about Samuel Basayo's bat. This guy is going to be a special hitter. He's Yordan Alvarez. This is a guy that's you're going to put in your lineup in the major leagues for a long time, and he's going to hit a lot of home runs, and he's going to have a good average. He's going to walk a lot eventually. Right now, he's not, but that's going to come because they're going to stop. They're going to have to start pitching around because he can hit the ball anywhere, anytime out of a park. So as he becomes a better major league hitter, those walks will start flying up. We'll see that going up. Not that he's walking at a terrible rate right now, but you're going to see that really shoot up. Defensively, he's done okay. He's not bad back there. My biggest concern I have with him defensively is his size. You're talking about a guy 6'4", 6'5". He looks every bit of 260, 270. I don't have, you can't trust any weight they put out on guys. I think maybe they finally changed his original weight, which was like 170 a couple years ago. I think they finally put it to 220 or 230. I don't know. He's a big guy. And all I know is that's a lot of weight on the knees going up and down. When we get those hot days, when he's 21, this isn't a problem. When he's 23, 24, 25, it starts to become a problem if he doesn't lose some of this weight. I think they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do there. Obviously Rushman only has a couple more seasons before he's a free agent. We don't know what's going to go on there, whether that's a guy that they re-sign or whether that's a guy they let go. But you don't look at Basayo as a guy you say, okay, I'm just going to turn him over and he's going to catch me 120 games a year, because I think you're going to start hurting his bat. He's got too special of a bat for him to stay back there, in my opinion. And I thought originally, before they went out and signed Alonso this year, I thought for sure they were going to transition him to first base, and he was going to be a first baseman. He's played a decent amount of first base in the minor leagues. He's okay over there. He's pretty athletic. He moves around pretty well. And he kind of showed the ability to play there enough that I could play him there. But they went out and signed Pete Alonso for 5 years. So where's Basayo going to play? Well, he's going to DH, he's going to catch, and maybe play first base occasionally. So it kind of clogs up that DH spot for a while. If you want that bat in there every day, and clearly you're going to want that bat there every day.
Here's I think a problem that I haven't. Here's the thing, a problem I think that could be a problem, and kind of going to what you're saying a little bit. I don't know if you can carry two catchers with this arrangement. That's the one downside, right? One guy leaves. Both of these guys are very physical guys as far as the way they play. One goes out of a game. Now what do you do? Because now you don't have another catcher, because both of them, usually a second catcher doesn't play very much, maybe one a week. So they may have to consider bringing up. They have Sam Huff up now. I think that's a good idea instead of a Weston Wilson, who wasn't playing much anyway. But I do think that's an actual thing where you go ahead and get a guy that is three catchers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if your bench can afford that, then yes, you definitely want that third catcher, especially if Basayo and Rushman are going to be that DH a lot of times when the catcher, when they're not catching. If that's the way you're going to play it, well, yeah, then you're kind of risking a little bit when it comes to some injuries. But I think they did some research on that, and they decided how many times has a catcher truly been hurt, that you're going to lose the pitcher if the DH has to come in and catch. And the chances are pretty low on that. So I think a lot of teams are. I think the Orioles aren't too concerned on that. Obviously, they brought Sam Huff up here. I think it had more to do with Basayo being a little tweaked up a little bit, with whatever he had going on with his stomach, getting spiked in the wrist the other day. I mean, I don't think it was serious, because one, they didn't put him on the IL, and two, he pinched hit last night. So I don't think it was too serious. But I think they just went and had that third catcher on there. And honestly,
I think he's fine because he's a young player. Yeah.
Yeah, they were carrying Weston Wilson anyway, right? So he really didn't have a role in this team. So if you're going to do that, you might as well bring up a catcher, that third catcher, who can do what he's doing now and get a couple of starts and give these guys some breathers.
Yeah, he didn't play much at all. Weston Wilson, he didn't actually play much at all. Didn't have a role. So I understand why they went ahead and did that. but that'll be fascinating to see like how that works as far as carrying three catchers going forward with the talent of these guys. Pete Alonso, I think now we're getting Pete Alonso what he's been most of his career. Big, strong, power numbers, first base, okay, average, about where it is. Last year, I think he was exceptional with the Mets. What is your assessment of Pete Alonso? I think he's been really good outside of the first month where he struggled.
Yeah, he's been better of late. I think without a doubt, we're starting to see a little bit of the Pete Alonso we were hoping to see. The power, they're getting the RBIs, getting those guys in. Obviously he had a tough game last night. It's always tough when you start talking about, well, he's got pretty good, knocking guys in. And I know there's somebody probably sitting there last night thinking about the 7 runners he left on base. But you know what? Everybody has those kind of games. So I think Pete has been what the Orioles expected for the most part, especially of late. What I think he's really been good at is defensively. They said that was a big reason why the Mets supposedly were moving on from him last year, and that he was so bad defensively that he was unplayable and they didn't want to clog DH up with him. And he comes here, works really hard, and he's been a pretty good first baseman overall. Little things here and there. I don't think he's a plus defensive first baseman, but I think he's been good enough to play over there, and I think he's one of the highest ranked rated defensive players on this team. When you look at OAA and even in DRS, both those have him as one of the highest defensive players. So that's a bit of a surprise.
I'm a bit old school. I don't care as much about the glove at first base. I just doesn't for me as much as a thing as do what you're supposed to do at first base. That's why you're at first base a lot of times. These guys, maybe that's just the old school in me, but he's been okay. I mean, I agree with you. He hasn't been like a train wreck or anything like that as well. But I think he's fun to watch. I'll say that. He's intense. He's not a guy, he doesn't mail it in ever. And I do think the Mets made a huge mistake by not signing him. I was shocked by that still. Like, why wouldn't you want a guy? I mean, look at the way they've looked this year. I mean, for goodness sake, not to have a Pete Alonso on your team.
Yeah, there's a lot of Mets fans still asking that question too. I know he was a very popular player, and and he seems like he's been a great fit in the clubhouse. I think this team needed some veteran leadership that he brings in, and he's had a couple of comments that I thought were designed to get some attention of a couple players, and I think that's what he's trying to do. If the Orioles were winning, and I think there'd be a lot more put towards what he's brought to the team in the clubhouse. But obviously when you're 31 and 36, people are like, well, what did he bring? But I think you have to be happy so far with Pete. If he ends the year with 30, 34, 35 bombs and knocks in 100 runs, I think we'll be happy with that.
Colton Cowser, one more guy. We're going to get to Michael Elias here real quick. But Colton Cowser, it was a guy, every time I put something on the Twitter page, on the Ravori Sports YouTube or anything, Colton Cowser, now all of a sudden Colton Cowser has really just been on fire lately as well. Can we get what we thought from Colton Cowser in general as far as that goes? Because he's been really rolling lately. I mean, ain't the milk cold, right? I mean, he's really been on a tear lately, hitting home runs.
Yeah, he obviously really has been. And, his last 2 months, he's hitting, his OPS is way over, I think it's over about 860, 870 now since May. And that's good. I think they're doing a good job of picking and choosing where he plays. He's not hit left-handers, although he hasn't a ton of at-bats against them. But he struck out 7 times and 14 PAs this year against left-handers. So obviously you're not going to gain a whole lot more bats if you're not hitting them at all. So, the thing about the Cowser brings besides the power is that you can put him out in left and right field, and he's going to be a very good defensive outfielder for you. And that's what they needed when you look at this team. When you look around and you look at the different guys that are on this team playing in the outfield, it's a stretch. Tavares has been a little bit of a disappointment in center field of late. He struggled. O'Neill is not very good in right. We've already talked about Ward not being good in left field. And Beavers has been hurt for most of the year. And only the other guys they kind of put out there are just guys. They're not plus defenders. So he brings that aspect. He can go out there. He can play a good defense. He's got the strongest arm in the outfield. He can change some games there. He's gotten much more accurate over the year. Over the first couple of years, he was really inaccurate. I think he took a little bit of miles per hour off of his gun and started getting a little bit more accurate, which made his arm a lot better, play up a lot better. But you got to hope. Look, we all know he has very real power. We've seen the home runs. I mean, when he hits them, they're bombs. I mean, this is not a guy. He's a big boy, and he can hit the ball a long way. And he's done a better job of hitting the changeups and the sliders that are mistakes. Still, he can get them out in good ones. Well, you can get a lot of hitters out with good ones. But you know what? Before, he wasn't even hitting the ones in the middle of the plate. So now he's starting to put the wood on those bats. And I think that's the most encouraging thing when it comes to looking at his bat, and why I think that hopefully he's turned a little bit of a corner and we can start getting a productive Colton Cowser again in that lineup.
Does Tyler O'Neill deserve a spot on the roster? I don't really see anything except for except for the good throws from right field. And, he looks like John Cena, a shorter version. That's about like it's a shame. I mean, I'm not against the guy, but I mean, he hasn't really produced anything.
Right. He's been a struggle. And I did a piece on him to show how bad he's been, how bad the bat speed has fallen off. Like all the things that you look for when you're just like, okay, is it he's just in a slump, or is it, I don't want to say over, but is it he's on the downside? In every single area that you looked, he looks like a guy that's on the downside, and that is not good. I mean, when everything is dropped, his barrel percentage, his hard to hit percentages, his bat speed, his exit velocity. I mean, you name it, it's down. And that's not, some of these things are not just performance related, right? Like obviously you can have a bad average, or your on base percentage may not be too high, but you can look down there and they can look, this bat speed is still the same. You can see that when he is hitting it, he's barreling it. He's not doing that. And he's 30 years old. Some guys drop off quick, and he's a guy, whether it's injuries have caused him that. This is the second year in a row since he's been with the Orioles. It's gotten worse, and he's become unplayable. The whole idea of it was he was supposed to be a left-handed basher, and he's clearly not even doing the one job he was here to bring in, which was to hit left-handers. I think as soon as Beavers or even Enrique Bradfield down in AAA, I think if he can get on a roll and stay healthy, I think he might be a guy they try to bring up, put in center field, and then move Tavares at right, and just go ahead and eat the salary with O'Neill.
We'll get to the prospects for sure. I told you we want to talk about some of the prospects, but the pitching, right? The starting pitching, not what we hoped. I think there was some skepticism though, the beginning of the year. Is it just all with Trevor Rogers? It's midnight Cinderella with him. I mean, was that at all the real, or we are going to get any of that anymore with Trevor Rogers?
I mean, obviously, Trevor Rogers was never going to be the guy he was for those 17 starts, right? Continually.
Why
he never
do you
had
say
to
that?
stop.
I kept hearing that.
Because when you look, so you can look at the stuff, right? So when I'm scouting guys, obviously, now I have a lot of tools to scout. I don't even, in the past when I was doing this way back in the day, everything was visual. You had to visually look at the stuff. Now I can pull the data up and I can see the movement of pitches. I can see the quality of the breaking ball. I can see the location. I can judge it against other pitchers. I can do those kind of things. And then you can start to put him up, and you start seeing a guy that's very, very average. That got, he had a very low BABIP, the whole batting average and balls in play was very low, which means he was a little lucky. Now, do I think he's a 6.29 ERA guy? No, I think he's getting unlucky. I think he had some command issues. He doesn't have the stuff, and he didn't have the stuff last year to get away with living in the middle of the plate and not making his pitches. And that's what he didn't do last year. He was just basically on perfect location and setup wise. The way he moved his pitches around, just his speed, he was just hitting everything and getting a little bit lucky when he did get hit. and they were hitting the balls right at guys. And this year, I think he got a little bit the opposite. He was making too many bad pitches in the middle of the plate, and then when he was getting hit, he was getting a little bit more unlucky, and now the balls were falling in more. But I think he's somewhere in between. I think he's a guy that if he ever could figure it out, we'd love to see it again. But he was never going to be an ace. He didn't have ace stuff. When you look down at guys in this rotation right now, you look at two guys that have ace type stuff. If they could put it all together and they can command it, and that's Shane Baz and Kyle Bradish. Everybody else is kind of a guy.
I think the bigger thing with Rogers too, he doesn't have. You can be the guy. He kind of reminds you. Said he doesn't have the stuff. He kind of reminds me of Jeff Ballard. Kind of had that same. He had Jeff Ballard.
Was that?
Outstanding. Jeff Ballard.
Okay.
Jeff Ballard. Right. He had
Yep.
that outstanding '89 season. He was really good.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of hitting everything. The Orioles had that phenomenal defense behind him, and he did very well. Jeff Ballard, as he went on, had some injuries and kind of got exposed quickly. I think also with Rogers, he doesn't have an out pitch. That's the problem. So if it's not perfect, like you said, he doesn't have a thing. He doesn't have something where he can blow people away or even like really fool people as well. So I think he is better than what we've seen, though. I mean, I think that's pretty bad. I mean, what we've seen so far. One other thing,
just to copy on that a little bit. So you're 100% right on not having an out pitch this year, and his whiff rate is 29th percentile. He's not getting guys to miss, and that's when we start looking at that's what he was able to do last year. So the quality of the stuff is down a little bit when you looked at the movement profiles, not significantly. So I think what you're seeing a guy that's missing, just like in the 3-run homer he gave up today. He has the guy down and then he throws a middle fastball and the guy hits it about 420 feet in the left field stands, and that's just not a pitch you can give to that guy with 2 outs. He's a power hitter. You can't go into his sweet spot. And last year, Trevor Rogers wouldn't have made that pitch. He would have been, very satisfied to try to throw a sweeper underneath his arms or try to throw that changeup away or use that fastball high enough in the zone to get the carry. And instead, he just didn't make a good pitch and he got hit. So, I think Trevor Rogers is better than what we've seen this year, but he's not the guy. Anyone that expected him to come back and be the guy he was last year was, going to be disappointed.
Ryan Helsey's going to be back at some point. I think it'll be sooner rather than later, right? I think it'll be a few more weeks before we see him, maybe after the break or right around there.
Right.
Does Felix Bautista ever pitch again?
That's a tough one. What is it? Shoulder this time after the elbow. Shoulders are always worse than elbows. A lot of guys come back from elbow surgeries. Guys sometimes can come back from shoulder, but very rarely do you see guys come back and be who they were. And we already saw that Bautista was not the guy, whether it was shoulder related or whatever was related. He wasn't the guy he was prior to having elbow. He came back and the velocity wasn't quite there. The splitter definitely wasn't there. He definitely couldn't command the splitter like he was, pre-injury. So it's tough. Will I say he'll never pitch again? No, I think he'll probably pitch again. Will he ever be the Felix Bautista we saw before? I'd be surprised if he was. I just think having a back-to-back elbow and then shoulder is a lot to overcome. And it's a lot for a guy who throws as hard as he did and relied on that velocity. He's a guy that relied on be able to throw that four-seamer up in the zone with that great IVB, get that carry, and then he could throw that splitter, and that was devastating. And unless he could become that guy again, it's going to be a tough road back. Oh, I lost you.
I'm sorry. No, I got the mic off. That would be good, so you can hear what I'm saying. So, Mike Elias and the skip, Abernathy. What do you think so far of the? What's your overall opinion? I'm dying to hear what you overall think with Mike Elias. I had Jason Lockenfora on the last interview, and we already know he just destroyed Elias.
Yeah.
As well. What is your assessment? It's hard to get an assessment for me because he's so political let's leave it there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I don't care about any of that stuff when it comes to baseball. Here's the thing with Mike Elias is, we're in his 8th season, right? This is the 8th season that the Orioles have now played under him. He's had 7 drafts. The Orioles are who they are, right? They're 31 and 36. They're coming off a year where they were below 500. When you look in the minor league system right now, and you said we're going to cover that a little bit later, there are some guys that are interesting, but they're not superstar absolute. These guys are going to come up here and destroy it. We're just waiting for them to get here. Now, definitely not on the hitting side. There may be some guys that starting to get a little bit more exciting on the pitching side, but we are who we are. They are who they are. And that's the way I look at this. He's had a lot of opportunities to make this team. And yes, we had the 100 win season. It just comes down to it. I'm a big believer in that. At some point, results matter. And to me, he has now had enough time. The results matter. And you can make a million excuses on why the Orioles are where they are. And some of them may have some merit. I'm not saying, sure. No one's ever been fired from a position in baseball and never had some merits on why they got fired. They weren't just terrible, right? Elias is not terrible. He's not awful at everything he does. But I think he keeps things so close hold with some of the people. I think he has his core people that he's kept around for a long time. And I go, what have they done successfully? When you start looking at guys, look, they've had huge prospects. You look at the last 3 that have come up that were in top 10 overall prospects, a couple of them top number 1 prospects in all of baseball. You look at them, right? You had Jackson Holiday, then you had Kobe Mayo, and now you got Basayo. Well, only 1 out of 3 of them have really performed at the major league level. Well, why are they coming up? Why are you doing things with Jackson Holiday and developing him as a shortstop when I could see the first time I watched him play shortstop in Delmarva, he wasn't playing shortstop at the major league level. He doesn't have the quick twitch that you want to see. He doesn't have the arm stretch you want to see. He didn't have the game awareness that you want to see from a shortstop. All those things were obvious if you watch enough baseball and you watch a young player. I was shocked, honestly, when I first watched Holiday, and I don't want to bash him too much because I do think he has some talent, but I was shocked for a kid who grew up all his life around baseball and just some of the things he did, whether it's running the bases or not being in the right place for cutoffs and things like that. And then they just kept promoting him, and they would just keep promoting him, and he wasn't hitting left-handers. They would just keep promoting him. And
he's natural.
He can't hit left-handers.
He's a natural. He's Ken Griffey Jr. He's a natural. He didn't know why he was hitting 300. No. He's a natural. That's kind of like he was that type.
You may
of guy,
be the only
like,
person that ever said he's like Ken Griffey Jr. Let's not.
Well, I didn't say he's Ken Griffey Jr. But that type of Ken Griffey Jr. When he came out when he was 19, didn't understand what he was doing, even though he was doing well. As far as his average, and that's kind of what Holiday was doing. He was a guy. Mm-hmm. He moved up really quickly through the organization because he was hitting well. The average was good. I mean, but I think it was. Now he's learning how to really play in the major leagues. Right, taking a while.
Yeah, but to get back to Elias, these are the kind of things that I have concern about when I see how these guys develop. We're now seeing, when you look at the core, Henderson not developing. Last 2 years keeps going down. OPS is now falling the 3rd straight year. Rushman, having a little better year, but fell off a couple of years. Doing well, but is Rushman anywhere near the player we thought he would be when he was a 1-1 pick? We thought this guy was a 35, 40 home run hitter who we were like wondering whether he had to move from catcher because his bat was going to be so special. And I'm not saying Rushman hasn't turned into a good player. He has. He's a good major league player. And I'm not saying he's a bad draft pick, but I'm pretty sure if I, had an opportunity to go back to that draft and take Bobby Witt Jr., I'm going to take Bobby Witt Jr., every single day and twice on Sunday. And again, I know that's going back and saying, but let's think about this. The Orioles were how many years away from contributing, but really being good when Elias took over? He was obviously trying to lose for a number of years. Why wouldn't you take a high school guy? Take a high school guy, and I got time. I got time to develop a high-end high school guy. Instead, he took a college guy who he kind of held back in the minors longer than he really should have been, just to kind of keep him and do that. So it's just a lot of confusion I have with the drafting, the developing, and his offseason. I mean, he had a better offseason. He had a better draft last year. His offseason was a little better, but with going after Boz and finally making an impact trade to get a guy in here that we needed. But, man, he blew some off seasons where he didn't mention, and even this offseason.
You didn't even mention the pitching, which I think is the bigger problem.
Right.
You haven't gotten any pitching. Like, you go draft after draft after draft. Like, even in the drafts, you get even last year, Irish, Aloy, Bodine, et cetera, et cetera. You even trade away a pick to get pitching. Like, you haven't gotten anyone. Right. And even the guys you've had with potential, Grayson, DL Hall, Burmeister, like, they either haven't performed or you've traded them. There isn't any pitching in this organization as far as that goes. Not that I even see at the lower levels like that. You know, Trey Gibson, I think, is
well, there's a couple guys that we can talk about that I'm excited about that got drafted last year. And that's the first time I've seen guys in all the time I've watched the drafts and watched the pitchers. And we can talk about them now. We talk about them later, but Joseph Jirwa and
I knew that name was coming.
Joseph Jirwa and JT Quinn are two arms that are really good. And there's a sleeper in there with Caden Hunter, the 6th round pick, who is very, very impressive. And I will be the first person to tell you I am one of the hardest people to impress. Anybody knows me when I do my prospect stuff. I am not. If you're looking for the fanboy report and tell you that every guy is coming up, everyone knows I'm not that guy. In fact, I get called very negative on players and prospects, but I'm like, go show me one I've missed when I've said they weren't going to be good, or they weren't going to be that good, or they weren't going to be the guy that some of the people think they were going to be. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. Nobody is. But, you know, I make guys prove to me, and there's things I need to see. And I'm telling you, those 3 guys are the first time I've seen guys the first year, right after they were drafted. As soon as I saw them, I was like, hold on. Those guys are different. All 3 of them. It doesn't mean they're all going to make it. All 3 of them are different than I've seen in the past. Like Baumeister, bleh. First time I saw him pitch, I was like, bleh. I can't believe that was a first-round pick. If I'd have got him in the 5th or 6th round, I'd be like, okay, I'll give it a shot. But he was never impressive to me. And the other guys we see that come up, Trey Gibson, free agent pick that they got lucky with, who got kicked out of Liberty and was kind of sitting out there. And look, I don't know who the scout was that found him. Great job. Great arm to find for no reason. Now just sitting out there and got him as a free agent.
I think he's a career relief pitcher. I think he may have a career as a back-end starter. I don't see ace at all when I see Trey Gibson. I don't, at least. But we're going to talk about my man Creed Williams. We're going to talk about it because we talked about it in the car. Tell me something good. Why is everybody so negative whenever I put up anything about Creed Williams? Like, I think
what are they saying is negative? What's the negative comments about Creed Williams?
It's always this snarkiness when I'm giving him a compliment. I think he's got power, but he's not going to hit for that. Well, I don't like his defense. Well, I don't know. Well, I don't like his weight. I don't like it seems like it's always this snarkiness with him. I mean, how many home runs do you need to see at the minor league level before you say, hey, this guy can really hit for power? I'm not saying he's going to be as good as a Kyle Schwarber, but I certainly think like a power potential is definitely there at the major league level.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think this year, first off, if anyone's ever watched Creed Williams play, he's got to be a fan favorite. He's so fun to watch. You get that long, flowy hair. He looks like he's having the greatest time of his life every time he's on the field. Always smiling, always playing. I mean, he's a fun guy to root for. So if you're just from a fan standpoint, man, nobody can be rooting against Creed Williams. He just seems like the guy you want to see in a major league. Like, he could be a cult hero if he just comes up here and hits a couple of good home runs, and he'll, maybe he's Jim Traber. Maybe he's Jim Traber. He comes up, hits a bunch of home runs, and everybody will remember him forever because of that. But I think there's a little bit more to Creed Williams, and I think this year has really been kind of a little bit of a breakout year for him. He's 23 years old. I think what happened is because he the Orioles very rarely have drafted high school hitters. When you look at they've been doing it a little bit more lately, but they don't have a history of going after high school. When they got him, and they gave him over slot to come in, and they gave him the $1 million as the 8th round pick. I think a lot of people are like, all right, let's see. And then he kind of went slow, right? He's a catcher. He's down there grinding as a catcher, and the bat wasn't super special. He'd pop some homers. He had a decent year in Delmarva one year, and then he'd come back and he hit 220 and just didn't strike out a lot and just didn't look great. But he keeps grinding. He kept grinding. And if you look at his year, even last year in Bowie, he grinded through a year where the numbers don't jump out at you. I forgot what I had him ranked at the end of last year. It may be in the back end of the top 30. But
he should be in the top 10.
Well, now I have him. It makes you feel better. I have him now just outside of the top 10.
I mean, and considering too, I'll be fair and say, considering what is there now, right? Because the system, in a lot of ways, is cleaned out, considering where they were a few years ago. So I do understand. But now, like, considering like you don't have a lot of prime prospects. Yeah. I mean, outside of Frederick.
There's only 3 hitters I have above them. All the rest of them are pitchers. But here's the thing. So this is what I like. So let me give you the positives. You said you wanted me to give you positive things about Creed Williams. Mm-hmm. One, he's not just a Deadpool hitter. He's a guy that will take singles to the opposite field. If you look at his spray charts, he's just not a dead red trying to yank everything. Now, is his power pool power? Yes, it's pool power. Does he have a 440-foot extreme power? He does not. He's a 380, 400 guy. He's going to hit home runs, but he's not a big boomer. He's not the guy you look at and you go, wow, that's just amazing power, right? But he's a power guy because he does have pull power. You pitch him down and in, and he will get to you. You make a mistake in the middle of the plate, he's going to get to you. You pitch him away, you're going to get him out. And that's one of the things that's where he's going to have to get better. Now, he has improved this year. When you look at some of the things he's doing, he's starting to take those pitches to the opposite field. He's taking those singles when he needs to. But he's still a guy that you can get out if you pitch him away consistently. And he's going to have to get better at that because obviously at the major league level, they're going to look at his heat map and they're going to say, I see a lot of blues outside. Now go and try to hurt me outside. And that's what they're going to do.
That's exactly what they do to minor league players. They start wherever the weakness is. That's exactly where they go.
Sure.
Hold on one second. I want you to hold on one second. All right. Thank you, sir. And again, but is Creed a major league player?
So I think he's a major league hitter. I think he can catch if he's okay defensively. He's not as bad as people think. He's not a brutal back there. I heard the same things from people saying, oh, Basayo can't catch. He's catching in the major leagues right now, right? Is he a star defensively? No. Williams can throw a little bit. He's thrown better this year. Blocking and he'll get some pass balls on him. Those are things I think he needs to still improve upon. But I'll tell you, whether it's with the Orioles, because right now they got 2, catchers, he could be a guy that somebody can say, look, I got a good right-handed catcher. I need a backup left-handed catcher and a bat on the bench. Why not? I mean, I think he's a guy that you give him, a couple hundred at bats a year and only against right-handed pitching. Although, just saying that, I would have told you hitting left-handers was a huge red flag, and in the past it was. This year he's actually gotten better hitting left-handers. Yeah. So there are things that he has improved upon. He's a great classic story of a guy that you just kind of have to stick with. Do I think he's a starter and is going to hit 30 home runs a year? I do not. I think he's going to end up being kind of a bench guy. I think if you maybe for a lower end team and they need a catcher or they need a DH first base catcher, and you give him 400 bats, can he hit you 20 home runs and hit 260? Mm-hmm. Sure. He might be that guy.
All right. Let's give you 4 more names of prospects real quick. Let's start with the bad. Vance Honeycutt, Griffo Farrell. What's going on, man? I mean, these guys, Honeycutt doesn't even get promoted. He's a college player. He's still in Frederick, and he's still really struggling. Griffo Farrell does get promoted to Bowie, and he's hitting below Mendoza as well. What happened there with those guys? Why aren't they performing?
Well, first off, Honeycutt is just a miss with the bat. He just has way too much whiff in it. He can't hit high eight. He's striking out at, I think, a 48 or 49%
He's leading the league
rate.
in strikeouts, right? Like I
Yeah,
saw
I
he's got
mean,
like
I know
66
he
or
had a
some
nice little
insane
spring
number.
training, right? He had a couple hit the home runs. That's
Yeah.
great. You know what? That's what he's going to be known for, other than being a first round pick that they spent $5 million on that's never going to make it out of the double A.
Yeah.
He's a great
That's pretty
defender.
strong right there.
He's a great defender. I mean, I'll play him anywhere in the outfield, but I don't think
Good
he could
athlete.
hit.
Good
I
athlete.
don't. Yeah, I don't think he could hit his way. I don't think he could hit water falling out of the boat, as they say. It just is too much miss, and I'm talking about middle pitches. It's just way too much miss. O'Farrell is another good defender, scrappy shortstop, second baseman, up the middle guy. I like him defensively. He just, again, can't hit. You got to hit at some point. He doesn't do anything else that well. He's not that good defensively where you go, I'll get value out of him that way. He's good. But he's not spectacular.
That surprised me a little bit more, him struggling with the bat. At least maybe not the power numbers. Even as a college player, he wasn't these good power numbers. But at Virginia, but a good scrappy little, I kind of like Pedroia when I saw him at Virginia. Like maybe that type of player, give you 15, 16 home runs, give you good defense, hit like 300, something like that. But he, again, the bat hasn't been any good.
No, it just doesn't. It hasn't come around. I think the hope was that maybe he gets to Chesapeake and maybe he's a guy that when the ball's more around the plate, he'll hit better. He hasn't. He gets overwhelmed pretty easily by good pitchers. To me, he just looks like a guy that doesn't have enough stick. And he's not going to bring you enough value otherwise. I think he's probably going to be a miss. Maybe he ends up making as a 4A guy. You have somewhere along the line, somebody gives him a cup of coffee and he gets up there. He might do that because he's good defensively. But he's not a starter. He's not a guy. I don't have him in my top 30 anymore.
The good Wima Aloy, Ike Irish. I think those two. I have Aloy right now ahead of Irish a little bit because he's actually been better at the minor league level, I think, so far than Irish has been. I know why people like Irish because he's toolsy, right? He's got all those, got that quick bat, he's got the great speed, he's got all those things. But Aloy is a really good college player. He's really hit well as well. I think he can be a really good player in the majors at some point as well. Where you at on those two?
Well, I've been having on my prospect power rankings, Wahiba Aloy has been my number one prospect for a while. I've liked him since they got him. I probably liked him more than the consensus. And I'll tell you why I have him over Irish. Yes, he has some miss in his bat. So does Irish. But he is a defender. He can play shortstop and he can play third base if you need to make him a third baseman. He's legitimate. And for me to say a guy is a legitimate shortstop at the major league level takes a lot for me to say because I don't throw that out there. I think he can play legitimate shortstop. I think he definitely would play a plus defensive third base if he has to move over there. And this guy can hit a ball out of all fields. He can put a jolt in him. And the one thing I really like about him is he reminds me of Kyle Stowers in the sense of Kyle Stowers would swing through two middle curveballs, right? And you're like, just can't hit a middle curveball. And then that pitcher threw a third middle curveball, and he hit it about 400 feet over the fence. And that is Aloy. He'll swing through some of the worst pitches, and you're like, what the hell? And then he'll come back, and he drills that same exact pitch. I think he's a guess hitter. I think you can be a guess hitter if you're smart. But I think he guesses a lot, and that's why he swings through a lot. Because I think if you see it, it'll a lot of times be in a 3-1 count. You get a 3-1 count, expecting fastball, he gets a slider and he swings through it. Well, yeah, because you were sitting fastball. If you're just like, all right, see ball, hit ball, then that middle slider maybe goes a long way. So I think that's something he's going to have to get better at. But I really like him. I really like him as a player. I think he's the number one prospect in this organization right now. I have Irish number 2 right now. Irish is learning to play defense out in right field. He is not going to catch. He's a brutal first baseman right now. He can play some right field. He's getting better, and he actually is a pretty good athlete. I think people think he's a little squatty guy, and he's just a hitter, and he was a catcher. No, he runs really well. He runs really well out there.
He's real toolsy. Like he's in the
Yeah.
top 91 of MLB, and I could see when I see it.
Yeah.
Like he's a
Good arm.
good.
Yeah.
All the stuff you want in a prospect is there.
Yeah.
With Irish.
Good arm. Good arm too. So I think he's solid out in right field. I think he's a guy that I think that's how they should develop him. They should develop in right field. I hope they keep him out there, and I think he's got a chance to be a real good player.
Last two names. What could have been Bradfield? What could it be Nate George? Nate George has kind of just put himself as a top 100 prospect. Yes. I mean, nobody saw that one coming as well. He was just phenomenal. Every level he's been at, great speed, and Bradfield just has struggled like when he's been on the field. So talk a little bit about those two.
Yeah, Nate George looked like he really broke out last year, and he looked like a very special player. He's a 5-tool guy with probably the least of his tool is power, but I think it's something he could have grew into or will grow into a little bit more. I don't think he's going to be a huge power guy, but I think he's going to be okay. He is one of the fastest guys in the system. He can play defensively anywhere you play him. He's solid in center field. He's raw, so he doesn't take great routes, but he's so fast he overcomes it. He's got a really good arm. I mean, plus arm. I mean, that guy, everything he does well. Now he's been out for a while now. He got some sort of illness or something, and we haven't seen him in a month. So we don't know what's going on with him. So he's been a little bit of a mystery, and we're hoping he shows back up soon. You know how the Orioles are very close knit when it comes to injuries of their prospects. So no information other than he had an illness. But he's got 4 out of 5.
He's a plus 4 out of 5 tools. Outside, I agree with you. Outside of power, he's an A on everything else.
Yeah.
Well,
and Bradfield's it's two things. One, he can't stay healthy. I mean, he's got to stay on the field. Reed Trimble is another outfielder that would be in the major leagues, in my opinion, if he could just stay healthy. I mean, Reed Trimble walks across the chalk line and sprains an ankle. I mean, I've never seen these guys are just constantly on the IL. I think Trimble came back and he had one game and he went right back on the IL. I mean, and for something different, wasn't even like the same injury. So, and Bradfield, at least this time it wasn't a hamstring. He's had a lot of hamstring injuries. I always worry about fast guys with hamstring injuries. And he's had a lot of them. This time it was a hand. If Bradfield is a plus defender. You could put him right out in the outfield right now, and he's going to help the team defensively at the major league level. Can he hit enough to stay out there as an everyday guy? I don't know. He hasn't shown me enough at the upper levels that he can be an everyday guy.
And I kind of think he should have been here already, or really close to being here. Like at this point, like we're still kind of waiting.
Well, he would be.
Well, yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind. Bradfield would have been, if he was healthy, Bradfield would have been playing in the outfield for the Orioles this year with all the injuries they've had. So I don't doubt that at all. He's just literally just got off the IL, and now tonight's his first night back with Norfolk again. So you know what? If like we talked earlier, if he can get on a roll, he can start hitting the ball a little bit. I don't see any reason why you don't bring him up and Adios O'Neal at the All-Star breaker before and just have to eat the salary, because at least we can now have a plus defender in center field, and now you can move Tavares around between left and right and Calzer left and right. Now you look a little better defensively out there.
All right, awesome. One other thing, tell us about how Oriole Hangout has evolved. I was telling you about how I used to bring Brian Roberts, and now you're doing social media. Now you're doing radio. Now you're doing this. And I think what you've done is one of the first things I think about as far as fans. You're the Reddit of the Orioles. It's another way to put it.
Right.
How do you see this going as far as for you? It's like what more to come with Oriole Hangout as we're all kind of evolving in the media thing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this since 1996. The site's been around since then. I was a warrant officer in the Army back then, and I just got started. They gave me web space, and I just learned about the internet, and I was like, what do I love? Oh, I'm just gonna do something about the Orioles, and Within 4 years, I was kind of doing it where a network came around called Rivals, and they asked me to come underneath them, and they paid me some money. I finally started making a little bit of money doing it, and I was like, wow, that's nice. I'm putting all this time and effort in here, and it just kind of grew from there. I finished off my military career, and wasn't able to do this full time, so I still just kept doing it half time for a long time, and I was a government contractor, did that, and then I retired last year, and so now I'm doing it full time. I finally can do this full time. I finally can
Awesome.
enjoy doing what I've always loved. I spend a lot more time now scouting. I do a lot more. That's why if you go to the site now, you're going to see a lot more of my scouting reports. You're going to see a lot more detailed reports I could put into. And I'm looking to do some additional things, even doing things like this, doing a little bit more of maybe some podcasting, some other things. And I've
Doing a little
had some people
radio,
reach out.
I've seen you a
Yeah.
couple times. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I have my regular gig on 105.7 at 11:30 on Wednesdays with Bob and Vinny. I've been doing that for years now. So I'm still doing that in fact, I'll be there tomorrow on 11:30 with them as well. So I've been on the radio with Bob since he was back in WNST. Actually, I
I
think we
know.
actually go back. We actually go all the way back to
Yeah.
internet radio together when we were on Rivals. So we've been together for a long time, and I'm very thankful he still brings me on. And I guess somebody still cares about what I have to say out there on the radio. So it's still fun.
So tell the people where to find you, as if all the Oriole fans didn't know you, which a lot of them
Yeah.
still do.
Well, obviously, you can go to OriolesHangout.com. We have the actual website, and then we have the message board, which is what everybody really is on, where you have multiple boards. We also have a very large Facebook site, but I always tell people the Facebook site is kind of like if you're just a random, kind of common fan, not there's anything wrong with that, but you're just like, oh, I just want to say something. That's what that's for. If you really want to have detailed conversations, you want to talk with other guys that really done a lot of time and effort, you want to really learn about the different stats you should be paying attention to and get different perspectives. The message board is where it's at, and that's where we have the Oriole board, we have a minor league board, and then every game we have a game thread going on. So literally, you go in there right now, there's 100 people in there discussing the game, and we kind of let it go a little bit on our rules. We moderate things very closely. We don't allow things that you see out in the internet, but like there's no politics, there's no cursing, there's no religion. We stick to baseball. That's what we want to do. So the game thread, we're a little bit looser on that because there's emotional things going on when somebody blows the game, but it's still a lot of fun. And it's a great place to kind of hang out with other people. It's nothing better sitting at home, have your laptop up, watching TV, and you can sit there. It's like you're watching with 50 other guys. So it's kind of fun.
All right. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining us here. Good luck with Orioles Hangout. Also, thank all of you out there watching our Ravori Sports Conversation. Like and subscribe, including you, Tony. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead, subscribe to the Ravori Sports YouTube channel and all of the out there. So thank you very much for joining us. You have a great rest of your day.